the city was always awake. Bright, flashing signs blinked endlessly, lighting up the wet road below. The rain from earlier made the asphalt shine like glass. Cars honked their horns, people talked loudly, and the sounds bounced off the tall buildings. For most people, this was just another ordinary night, another long day at work finally ending. But for Lily, every night felt like a cruel reminder, a reminder that time was running out. She was exhausted. Her body ached all over as if she was carrying something heavy that no one else could see. But she couldn't stop. She wouldn't stop. Her trembling fingers carefully adjusted the paintings on the folding table she had set up near a busy coffee shop. The cold night air bit at her skin, sneaking into her bones, making her shiver. But she ignored it. There were bigger things to worry about than being cold. Like selling a painting tonight. She had to. Not for rent. Not even for food. But to survive. Lily knew her struggle was invisible. She didn't wear a scarf over her head. She didn't hold a sign that said, "Please help me." To the world, she was just another artist trying to sell her work on the street. And that wasn't enough to make people stop. She looked around at the moving crowd. People walked in and out of the coffee shop, holding warm cups of coffee in their hands. Their laughter filled the chilly air. Cars rushed past, their bright headlights reflecting on the glass doors of nearby stores. Groups of friends walked together, talking and laughing, completely unaware of the pale, thin girl standing by her paintings, holding an old, worn-out paintbrush. Lily wanted to be strong. But life was unforgiving. The truth was harsh. She needed treatment and it was expensive. She had already started skipping some of her doctor's appointments because she simply didn't have the money. Every day that passed without selling a painting meant she was a little closer to losing her fight. And what if she didn't sell anything tonight? What if she never did? What if no one ever saw the value in what she created? Lily pressed her lips together, forcing herself not to think like that. There was still hope. There had to be. She kept her eyes on the busy street, watching faces blur past her. Some people glanced at her paintings for half a second before walking on, not even slowing down. She was used to it. But then he appeared. A man walked slowly down the sidewalk. Unlike the others, he wasn't rushing. He seemed to see the world around him while everyone else just moved through it. He wore dark jeans and a black leather jacket. His dark hair fell just past his shoulders, slightly messy. And even though it was already night, he wore sunglasses. Lily watched as he walked past her table. She thought he would disappear into the crowd just like everyone else. But after a few steps, he stopped. Lily held her breath. The man turned his head slightly, like he was thinking about something. Then after a moment, he turned and walked toward her table. A strange feeling ran through her body. There was something about him. Something familiar. She didn't know why, but it felt like she had seen him before. But where? The man stopped in front of her paintings. Slowly, he pulled his hands out of his pockets and ran his fingers along the edges of one of the canvases. "Did you paint all of these?" he asked, his voice calm but filled with curiosity. Lily nodded. "Yes, they're all mine." The man picked up a small painting and studied it carefully. It was a painting of a girl sitting alone on a bench, an open book resting in her lap. Around her, the city lights flickered, glowing softly in the night. He stared at it longer than most people did. He wasn't just looking. He was seeing. "The way you use the light," he murmured. "It feels like the city is alive around her." Lily blinked. She wasn't used to people noticing the small details in her work. "I like to capture moments of calm in the middle of chaos," she said softly. "Sometimes, it feels like the world is moving too fast and I just want to freeze a moment that actually means something." The man didn't answer right away. He seemed to be thinking about her words. Then he spoke. "That's powerful." Lily felt warmth spread through her chest. She had never cared much for empty compliments. But this felt real. She studied the man as he held her painting. There was something about him that made her heart beat faster. The shape of his face, the way he spoke, his presence. She knew she had seen him before. But where? Maybe at an art show? No, that didn't seem right. He didn't look like a fancy art collector. Maybe on TV? An interview? No, that was crazy. And yet, her heart pounded. She wanted to ask. She needed to know. But what if she was wrong? What if he was just an ordinary man with a familiar face? She stayed quiet. The man placed the painting back on the table, but he didn't leave. Instead, he kept looking at her other paintings as if trying to choose something. Lily's breath quickened. She didn't know who he was, but deep down she felt like tonight was going to be different. What happens when a talented but unknown artist puts all her hope in the hands of strangers walking by? A mysterious man is about to change everything. and Lily feels like she has seen him before. But who is he? Lily gripped the edge of her table, trying to ignore the dizziness creeping up on her. Today was better than most, but still bad. The pain was always there, like a shadow that never left her side. The worst part wasn't the pain though. It was the exhaustion, the kind that sleep couldn't fix. She didn't want to look weak. She didn't want anyone to feel sorry for her. But her body was giving up on her. Her once thick, beautiful hair was now thin and brittle. The medicine she took had drained it of life. Her skin had lost its color, turning almost ghostly pale. And the nausea, it came and went without warning, making even the simplest tasks a struggle. But Lily refused to show it. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to focus on the man standing in front of her. The man who was holding her painting like it meant something. "Do you sell here every day?" he asked, his eyes still on the canvas. Lily hesitated. "Almost every day," she admitted. "When I'm well enough to be here." The words slipped out before she could stop them. She didn't like admitting she was weak, but lying took more energy than she had. The man finally looked up at her. "And today?" he asked. "Is it a good day or a bad one?" Lily's heart skipped a beat. Why was he paying so much attention to her? Most people ignored suffering when they saw it. They looked away, spoke quickly, moved on. But not him. He was there. Lily looked up at the man standing in front of her little art booth on the busy city sidewalk. "It's an okay day," she said with a small, forced smile. She didn't want to say too much. She didn't want to let her feelings show. The man didn't say anything right away, but he didn't look away either. He just kept watching her, waiting. Then it happened. A sudden wave of dizziness hit Lily like a strong gust of wind. The ground beneath her feet felt shaky. Her head felt light and her vision blurred for just a second. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. 1, 3, 4, 5. Then she let the breath out slowly. But it didn't help. Her legs felt weak. Her knees wobbled and her hands, which had been steady on the table just moments ago, started to tremble. She needed to sit down. She didn't want to make it obvious. She gripped the edge of the table and tried to act normal. But the man noticed. She saw his expression change, the way his eyes softened. He wasn't just looking at her paintings anymore. He was looking at her. "Do you need to sit down?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm. Lily swallowed hard. She wanted to say no. She wanted to pretend she was fine. But she wasn't. So she gave a small nod. Without hesitation, the man turned and grabbed a chair from the cafe nearby. He brought it over and set it down right next to her. Lily exhaled as she sat, feeling instant relief. But she hated looking weak. "Are you okay?" he asked again. "Yeah," she said quickly. "This happens sometimes." That was all she told him. But she could tell that he already knew something was wrong. The man looked down at the painting he had been holding, the one he was about to buy. His eyes moved over it carefully. "This city never stops moving," he murmured, almost like he was talking to himself. "But you found a way to capture moments no one notices." Lily shivered. That was exactly what she tried to do. That was exactly what she wanted people to see. And he understood. "People walk too fast to really see anything," she said softly. The man smiled just a little. "But you don't?" She studied his face, the way he spoke, the way he saw things. And then, suddenly, that strange feeling hit her. She had seen him before. But where? Lily sat there for a moment, dazed. She felt the weight of the money in her hands, the warmth of the chair beneath her. What just happened? Then, as her thoughts raced, she realized something. She knew this man. She had seen him before. On movie posters. On TV. In magazines. She had just sold a painting to Keanu Reeves. And tomorrow he was coming back. Lily didn't sleep that night. After packing up her booth and returning to her tiny apartment, she sat on her old, lumpy couch, staring at the ceiling. Her small space was cluttered with unfinished paintings, half-empty paint bottles, and brushes covered in dry paint. She couldn't believe it. She had sold a painting to Keanu Reeves. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a trick of her tired mind. It really happened. He had stopped in front of her art stand, chosen one of her paintings, and before leaving, he had said something that made her heart pound. "I'll be back." What? Most people bought a painting and walked away forever. But not him. She remembered how he made a phone call before leaving. Who had he called? Why was he coming back? Her brain wouldn't stop racing. Every time she closed her eyes, her thoughts ran in circles. And then the next afternoon he showed up again. The wind was stronger that day. The air smelled like fresh coffee from the cafe next door, mixed with the sharp scent of car exhaust from the busy street. Lily sat bundled up in a thin jacket that wasn't quite warm enough. And then she saw him. Keanu Reeves. But this time he wasn't alone. Walking beside him was an older man with a neatly trimmed gray beard. He wore a fancy coat and carried a small notebook in one hand. Lily's stomach twisted with nerves. What was happening? Keanu stopped in front of her booth, his arms crossed. He smiled a little, like he had expected her to be surprised. "Hey Lily. How are you today?" Lily blinked. He remembered her name. "I'm okay," she said, even though she wasn't sure if it was true. Keanu tilted his head slightly. "I know yesterday was a medium day. Is today better or worse?" Lily hesitated. "Still medium, I guess." Keanu chuckled. "Well, let's see if we can change that." He gestured to the man standing beside him. "This is Victor. He works in the art world. He helps find and collect special paintings. When I saw your work yesterday, I knew I had to show it to someone who really understands art." Lily's eyes widened. "What?" Victor extended his hand to shake hers. "Keanu called me last night," he said. "He told me he had come across an amazing artist on the street, and that I needed to see your work." Lily's heart pounded. "You want to see my paintings?" Victor smiled. "I do. If Keanu says there's something special, I believe him." Lily watched as Victor studied her paintings. He didn't just glance at them like most people. He examined them closely. His eyes moved slowly over every brushstroke, like he was trying to feel the emotions behind them. After a few long moments, he looked up and said, "Your colors are vibrant, but there's a deep sadness in your work. Each painting tells a story, one that words can't quite capture. There's something rare here." Lily didn't know how to respond. Keanu smiled like he had already known that. "Told you," he said, glancing at Victor. Victor nodded. "Lily, I'd like to introduce your work to some people. Collectors. Gallery owners." Lily's heart raced. "Galleries?" Victor shrugged. "I can't promise anything, but I think your paintings deserve to be in a gallery. And I want to help." 4 months, Lily had been selling her paintings on the street just to pay for her medical bills. She had convinced herself that her art would never be displayed in a real gallery, that her paintings would always stay here, on the sidewalk, unnoticed by the world. But now, someone was telling her that maybe, just maybe, her work belonged somewhere bigger. And all because of Keanu Reeves. She turned to him, still confused. Why was he doing this? As if he could read her mind, he said, "I believe in people's talent. And I believe the right stories need to be told." Lily felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to say she wasn't sure she deserved this, that there were better artists than her. But she also wanted to believe this was real. So, instead of doubting, instead of pushing it away, she took a deep breath and asked, "What do I need to do?" Victor smiled. "Keep painting. Let me take a few of your canvases and show them to the right people. And if this works out?" He glanced at Keanu, who just shrugged. "Well, then we'll see what happens next." Lily nodded slowly. Maybe she still had a chance. And Keanu Reeves was helping her find it. Lily always believed her art was invisible. But when Keanu Reeves decides to help, a world of possibilities opens up. Could this be her big break? That night, Lily sat on the floor of her tiny apartment. She was surrounded by her paintings, looking at each one carefully. She still couldn't believe what had happened. Just yesterday, she had been so worried about selling even one painting. She needed the money for food, rent, and, most importantly, her medicine. She had been painting and selling her art on the street, hoping that someone would buy it. But today, everything has changed. Keanu Reeves, a real-life movie star, had seen her paintings and wanted to help her. Not only that, but he had brought an art expert named Victor to look at her work. And now, both of them wanted to show her paintings to rich collectors and big art galleries. She should have been jumping with excitement, but instead, a little voice in her head whispered, "What if this doesn't work? What if it's too good to be true?" Lily took a deep breath and tried to push the fear away. She had worked so hard to get here. If Keanu believed in her, and if Victor thought her paintings were special, maybe, just maybe, she could believe in herself too. The next day, Lily grabbed her bag and hurried to her usual spot on the sidewalk. She had been selling paintings there for months. But today, when she arrived, her heart skipped a beat. Keanu was already waiting for her. He was wearing dark jeans, a black leather jacket, and sunglasses. Even though he was a huge movie star, he looked so relaxed, like just another person walking around the city. Lily smiled nervously and walked up to him. "You got here before me?" she joked. Keanu smiled. "I had some free time and wanted to tell you some news." Lily's eyes widened. "News?" Keanu took off his sunglasses and put them in his jacket pocket. "Victor showed your paintings to a few people and they were very interested. So, you have 2 choices?" Lily's stomach flipped. "2 choices?" she asked. Keanu nodded. First, a gallery wants to show some of your paintings next month. It won't be a big exhibition yet, but it's a great way to start. Lily's mouth dropped open. A gallery wanted her art? She had always dreamed of something like that, but she never thought it would really happen. And the second option? She whispered. Keanu looked at her carefully, as if making sure she was ready for what he was about to say. I have a friend who wants to buy some of your paintings. Not just one or two, he wants a lot. And he wants to pay you what your art is really worth. Lily gasped. A lot of paintings? Keanu grinned. Yes, and for a good price. Lily stared at her paintings on the table. Every painting held a piece of her heart. If she said yes, her art would go to places she never imagined. She looked at Keanu and smiled. Let's do this. Keanu's grin grew bigger. Good choice. It was finally here. Lily stood in front of a big art gallery, staring at an invitation in her hand. Light in the City, the first exhibition of Lily Dawson. Her name was on it. It felt unreal. Just a few weeks ago, she had been selling her paintings on the street. Now she was about to walk into a place where real artists showed their work. She felt nervous, but she took a deep breath. She had worked hard for this. She belonged here. When she stepped inside, she was amazed. The gallery was filled with people. Journalists took photos, art collectors whispered about her paintings, and other artists admired her work. She looked at her paintings on the walls. Each one told a story, her story. A story of struggle, pain, and hope. The colors, the brushstrokes, the way light and shadows mixed, it all showed the emotion she had poured into them. Then she saw him. Keanu stood near a pillar, watching the exhibition with a quiet, happy smile. When their eyes met, he raised a glass of champagne toward her. Lily laughed and walked over to him. So, what do you think? She asked. Keanu looked around the room. Your art speaks for itself. But if you need words, it's incredible, Lily. She felt warmth spread through her chest. This is only possible because of you? Keanu shook his head. No. It's possible because you had the courage to accept what was already yours. Lily smiled. For the first time, she truly believed it. Then Victor appeared beside them, holding his phone. Lily, you have to see this. He handed her the phone. Lily's heart skipped a beat as she looked at the screen. Social media was going crazy. People were sharing pictures from the exhibition. Influencers, art blogs, even celebrities were talking about her. But one message stood out. It was from a children's hospital. Your paintings have brought so much inspiration to our young patients. Would you be willing to create something special for our oncology ward? Lily felt tears in her eyes. She turned to Keanu, who was already watching her reaction with a knowing smile. What do you think? He asked. She didn't need to think. I think it's time to give back. Lily walked into the children's hospital, carrying colorful paintings. This time she wasn't painting to survive. She was painting to bring joy. The kids watched her with wide, excited eyes. Some even grabbed paintbrushes and joined in. They laughed as they mixed colors and created their own masterpieces. Even though they were sick for a little while, they were just happy kids having fun. As she painted, Lily felt something in her heart. It was warmth, love, and purpose. She wasn't just an artist anymore. She was someone who could change lives. Just like Keanu had changed hers. And now, it was her turn to do the same for others. Lily had started by selling paintings on the street, just trying to survive. But because of the kindness of one stranger, she had discovered something much greater. Her art wasn't just a way to make money, it was a way to bring happiness, hope, and beauty into the world. And that was worth more than anything. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories filled with adventure, mystery, and excitement. Your support means the world, and it helps keep these stories coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.